I raised two sons with autism. And so they're grown now, but this happened back when we were much, much younger. And we were living in Baltimore at that time. And Baltimore didn't have a history of tornadoes at the time. But we experienced a tornado one year that literally almost tore the roof off of our townhome that we were living in. And at the time, I was not prepared. I did not have disaster preparedness in my mind. I had grown up in New York where we had storms, but we had never had a lot of disasters. And so this was pretty much the first time something had come through and destroyed an entire property practically. And we were there with all the ceilings coming down, and at the time we were getting ready for bed. So at the time I wore contact lenses, and I had taken them out and I put them away. And so you imagine the ceilings coming down, everything is covered, and I was legally blind at the time when this happened. So I'm gathering my children in the hallway, and I'm just making sure we're all safe. All the lights had gone out. And so, then here came the police and here came the firefighters, and they're knocking holes to make sure that there's no electrical issues. And I just remember being, what in the world are we doing? I mean, I had nothing prepared at that time. And basically, we came out of there with the clothes we had on. I had been reading my Bible, so that was in my hand. And we had two pets. At the time, my son has an emotional support animal. And then we had a dog as well. And we had no plan. And so, that's why this is so important. We had no plan. Where were the pets going? Where were we going? And it worked out that we didn't end up having to go to a shelter because that would have been very difficult. At the time, the shelters were not taking pets or any emotional support animals. They may have taken service animals, but they weren't taking other animals or pets. And so we ended up having to create a plan in record time of where's the dog going, where's the cat going, um, and where are we going? And we ended up, she mentioned privilege. We ended up going with friends and being able to stay at a friend's home. But we had nothing. We literally had to wait on what was available, what could be donated, just to have clothes to wear. So we spent that first week just in absolute shock, I think, because it was like, well, no one's going to school. Everything has been covered in that part of the state. Ceilings and the inner walls had asbestos in it. And so you couldn't take anything. Once the ceilings came down, you couldn't take anything. All of it had to be just destroyed. And so we, on top of, being out of our home, we had to lose everything at the last minute. And that first week was just trying to get clothing and underwear and school books and different things like that. And so, planning has become something that is part of my life ever since. We do have an electric generator now. We do actually have solar panels now. We have food that's stored in jars and things of that nature. We have things that are in bins that can be taken with us just in case something happens and we don't have to pack anything. All of our important information is now in waterproof bags that we have in bins. And so, having lived through that disaster um, of having to move and leave everything behind has really changed the way I think and plan in the future. Um, Also, having children with autism, you can imagine that was very traumatic. They've lost everything they own. They've lost everything, the place that they live. And now there's a routine that they're not accustomed to at all. And so my oldest son, this was very, very difficult on how to maintain a routine after this disaster that supported what he needed as far as emotional and mental health. And so I'm so grateful for our other panelists today to talk about all the things that we should think about in ahead of time because we literally were not prepared. And we just basically, by our wits and by our friends, survived to be able to move in or wait until the federal government came with FEMA, until our property began to repair places. But we literally had to move, stay with friends, have donations just for us to have clothing, and slowly put our lives back together.